This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Good evening and welcome to WAAY 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Doviet. Tonight we're taking your calls and questions about family law, just in time for the holidays and some of the stresses of being with the family. We're going to take your questions, everything from child support to alimony, divorce, getting child support paid, what to do if your ex isn't paying like they're supposed to. Call in your questions. The 31 Law Call number 256-536-0077. We will also be answering some of your email questions. You can send an email question anytime, any day of the week. You send it to LawCall@waaytv.com, and when we get to a show that's on point, we pull some of those out. We will have some of your questions about family law here tonight. Getting us started tonight, Will League is here from Timberlake and League. Good to have you here.
Hi, Sharon, how are you?
Doing well. Before we start talking about family law and the difficult problems with family law, we've got something happy. You've got an event that's coming up.
We do. Bring your family down, downtown Huntsville, Friday and Saturday, World Cup watch party. We're listed on FIFA's website as official host and watch party. We're doing it with our neighbors, Moe's, La Esquina, The Standard, Melt, Martin Fed, and Ripple. And so we're going to have a big Jumbotron and restaurants and it's Purple Cup District. Sharon, you know what that means?
Yes, you can get some carried around with you if you want to.
Right, so we'll be downtown this Friday from noon to 5 and Saturday for the USA-England game and Saturday for Argentina-Mexico. So should be a nice event. Bring the family down. Hopefully everybody's good. Tonight we're talking about family law.
Family law.
So it's some of the most difficult cases, but hopefully family's good. Bring them down Friday and Saturday. We'll have a big time. But to move on to the serious topic of family law, I hear, Sharon, it's some of the most difficult cases that judges hear. When it comes into my world, if we recover, let's say I recover for mom, and she has a child support lien against her from father, then whatever case that I have is subject to that child support lien. So that's usually when we get involved. And we usually consult someone like yourself or Paul Seckel, who we have from Marshall County. Does a lot of domestic cases, child support, custody, alimony, divorce, prenuptial agreements, all of it. Paul, welcome. I appreciate you coming up, staying up with us tonight.
Thank you guys for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about, maybe we start off with the very basic things, the child support calculations. So many people are confused about how a judge comes up with a child support number. Talk a little bit about what goes into figuring out child support.
So in Alabama, it's governed by the Alabama Rules of Judicial Administration, Rule 32, which they recently updated in May. And so it basically goes by what the mother's income is, what the father's income is. They combine those, whatever percentage whoever has to pay child support, that's the percentage of the child support calculation from Alabama Rules of Judicial Administration, Rule 32, that you would pay.
Paul, let me ask you this. So I've got a client who we recovered for him, and then there was a lien. The mother of the child had a lien for child support, so we started addressing that. And in that order, where I'm looking at the order, and it specifically states they're going outside of Rule 32. My understanding was you calculate the father's income, mother's income, goes into a formula and spits out a number. What are the requirements to go outside of Rule 32? Do you have to have a judge's approval? I guess you got approval for everything.
So with all divorce cases involving kids, there are 3 forms that are filed: CS 41, 42, and 43. And the 43 specifies if you're going outside the guidelines or you're using those ARJ Rule 32 guidelines, and for what reason. So yes, typically the judge does have to sign off on it. You guys can deviate by agreement on occasion, or if there's some kind of special compensation or some kind of special need the child has, then that would be a reason for a deviation.
Judges could even deviate downward sometimes if maybe they decide that there's a lot of travel involved and somebody's got to have a lot of travel expenses. That might be another way. So you can argue some things for your client trying to get it to be different from what the calculation says.
Absolutely.
It's an interesting case. I mean, so I've got a Alabama case. We collected quite a large recovery for this gentleman. Good. And it's a Texas child support lien. And we were put on notice by the attorney, but also DHR in Texas. So when I'm on notice of that lien, I can't pay the proceeds over that. And so I'm going to have to get admitted pro hac vice to argue his case in Texas. And could you guys come in, or would I need a Texas attorney to fight that? Paul and Sharon, you guys
I don't
are
know.
domestic attorneys. I'm needing help from my
I
client.
kind of think you need a Texas
I would think you would
attorney.
need a Texas attorney for that as well.
Now, our DHR lawyers, the child support collection units, can get involved in certain cases, but I don't know if you've got a Texas court wanting that money.
We're in the beginning stages of it, so it's.
You can take that foreign judgment and register it here with the local circuit clerk, and DHR may be able to help you collect that. But typically, I would say the safest bet would be to use a Texas attorney.
Right. Okay.
We've got callers with questions. Paul, we've got another Paul. Paul is on the line with a question from Langston. Hi, Paul. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Hi, I got a owe child support in another state, back child support,
Okay.
and they have my license suspended. What do I need to do to get it cleared up to get my license?
Yeah,
back?
that's one of the things they can do, right? They can take your license, they can take your passport. They
License
can,
here in
yeah.
Alabama or license there? Where are you licensed?
License there in another state.
Okay.
Paul, our Paul. Paul, talk to him
Yeah.
about that. How can he get that lifted?
So, Paul, is this through? Did they file something here in Alabama, or is this in whatever your home state is at?
It's in my home state that I'm in. They got them suspended there, so Alabama won't, they won't swap them over because there's a hold on them in Florida.
Okay, so what you really need to do is consult an attorney in Florida so that they can get that straightened out for you, because as long as Florida is saying, hey, you're not paying your child support, so we're not going to allow you to have a driver's license, then you're going to need to have Florida address that.
What about this for the caller? Sometimes I had another case. My client had a recovery, and there was another lien, and we were able to negotiate. I think it was like a $51,000 child support lien, and we were able to negotiate that down with DHR for about high 20s.
Yeah.
What's the standard there? Is each state different?
It's really, what I've found is that it's up to the person who is owed the money, right? So if you owe back support to mom's got to sign off on it, and if she won't reduce it, DHR is not going to reduce it for her. Paul,
Absolutely.
have you had any better luck than that?
Typically child support is for the support and maintenance of the children or child, and so typically if you're going to downwardly deviate from some kind of order, it does have to be on the recipient's request.
Sometimes, the interest on that. Interest on child support is now 7.5%. It used to be 12%. So one of the things that is most commonly negotiated is that interest, because it builds up huge. Within about 7 years, you double what you owed if you haven't been paying. So take a look at that and see if the other person would be willing to take a lower amount. Let's take a look at the email question that we got from Jackie. Jackie had written in, it's my understanding property bought in one person's name during the marriage is still marital property of both people. Okay, well, what about property bought prior to the marriage? Paul, talk to us about property in the state of Alabama.
So typically, if you bring property into the marriage, it is not marital property. What you want to do, especially if it's like rental property or something like that, you want to deposit those rental proceeds in a completely separate account. You don't want to mix it in with any kind of marital account. If you were to choose to live on that property as the marital residence, then it could potentially become marital property and be subject to division should you get divorced. So you really want to try to keep those separate as much as possible.
That commingling of money will get you in big trouble, right? Same thing for inherited things, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, keep them separate.
You use anything for the benefit of both parties, it's fair game. Is that about right?
I think that's about right. Yeah, judges may decide to give you still more of it, but they may cross the line and say, yes, your spouse is entitled to at least some. Okay, let's talk a little bit about problems people have had with the stimulus money. This is one of the more recent problems that folks who have children and child support and tax issues, divorced people, have had problems with the stimulus payments they got during COVID, right? Paul, what did you see?
Absolutely. So, a lot of orders say that you claim, if you have one child, one of them gets claimed by the father 1 year, the mother an odd number of years, whatever. And so a lot of times those stimulus checks came in on whoever last filed taxes on the child. So, and the other parties didn't want to separate those, so it's been a little bit not used for the purpose intended when they put that stimulus out there.
And I haven't really seen how any judges decide to do it. It hasn't come up with any of my cases to actually make it to trial yet to see what they order people to do.
Not in my cases either yet.
We've got Janice on the line with a question from Huntsville. Hi, Janice. How are you tonight, and what's your question?
Hi, my question is, if I have given DHR the address to the person for child support, and I was just wondering if I needed to get a lawyer because they said they can't do anything until he resides there. His driver's license has been suspended.
So you've given them a new address.
That's correct.
Huh.
For the payer or for yourself?
No, for the payer.
How far behind is he, Janice?
Over 6 years.
So she said his driver's license is suspended.
Yeah, so he's not been paying.
So DHR oftentimes prosecutes these, right?
If it gets bad enough, they can hit you with criminal non-support, which you can get jail time for. Yeah.
You know, I would suggest you hire a lawyer, but at the same time, DHR, they work for, for someone, such as yourself, to collect that child support. Now, would you get, they do a good job. They're overwhelmed. I get it. It's a large caseload, but I would still recommend talking with a domestic attorney like Paul or Sharon to go ahead and, maybe file something with the court. And some judges are ordering jail time, and that's a good way. Well, that's one of the tools that's used to stimulate these payments. If the guy can't pay it, I don't know if the judge will put him in jail, but if he or she is, just totally phoning it in, not working, or worse, making money and just not paying it, the judge has got tools. They have tools to do that. And what are some of those tools?
And typically, each missed child support payment is subject to up to 5 days in jail. So certainly can be some pretty stiff fines if there's
Paul,
36 months
is that a
worth
criminal situation, or is that a civil breach, or what's the word I'm trying to think of? Contempt of court.
It's civil contempt of court. If a judge orders you to do something and you don't do it, each instance of that you do not follow the judge's order is subject to up to 5 days and a fine, but 5 days in jail.
And back to her question, do you guys see the DHR pushing these issues, or is it usually up to an individual attorney such as yourselves?
DHR is very good about helping families or recipients of child support after there hasn't been any child support paid for, I think, 90 days for them to get involved. The thing about DHR is typically the DHR attorneys handle those cases, so the client needing that child support who doesn't really have the money to go hire an attorney can use the DHR to recover that back child support, so they're not out paying another attorney to do it.
Yeah, a private lawyer might be able to take it and really run with it, where DHR might not, but then you've got to pay somebody, and you didn't get the money in the first place.
Right.
They're telling us to take a break. Let's take a break. Be right back answering more of your questions all about family law tonight. Stay with us.
You're watching WAAY 31 Law Call, where lawyers come to help. Your rights, your calls, live. Hosted by family law attorney Sharon Doviet, with the personal injury attorneys of one of the Valley's most respected law firms, Timberlake and League. Featuring the knowledge of managing partner Michael Timberlake, with millions of dollars awarded to his clients. And the experience of attorney Will League, a strong courtroom fighter known for his commitment to winning. And the fellow partners of Timberlake and League Heath Brooks and William Meservey. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome back to 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Doviet. Tonight we're taking calls and questions about family law, so divorce, child custody, things like that. We've got with us Will League and Paul Seckel. Paul is an attorney from Marshall County, and he does family law. Will, with Timberlake and League, they do personal injury cases. So who, in your world, which parent, if folks are divorced, who gets to sue on behalf of that child? If something comes up that somebody needs to bring a lawsuit, who can sue?
Right. Okay, so handle a lot of those cases. If, let's say, parents are divorced, the custodial parent usually has the right to bring an action on behalf of the minor child. In wrongful death cases, you have to have an estate. Typically, kids don't have wills naming a personal representative. Typically, the personal representative of your estate is allowed to maintain an action for wrongful death or anything that has to do with those type of issues. However, if a child is killed without a will, perishes without a will, then you have to go to the probate court and petition the court for letters of testamentary, so giving either parent. So it's not really a race to the courthouse. The judge will consider that. Let's say mom goes and files letters. They will have to give father notice, if the child was married, which, you know, again, most of them aren't. But anybody who could take, they would have to give notice. They'll have a hearing, and the probate judge will determine who is the best suited to maintain an action on behalf of the minor child's estate.
Gotcha.
And so either one or an interested family member, whoever applies, if no one else applies, interested family member or somebody with the county could be appointed if no one could step up to do that. So many people, and now the proceeds go by intestate succession, because again, there is no will. And so if you die without a will, your stuff doesn't go to the state like you think. It goes by the laws of intestate succession. If you were married, mostly to the wife. If you weren't married, to the kids. If you didn't have any kids, to the parents. So there's different rules setting out how the money would flow on any type of recovery, which is different than who has the ability to maintain the suit. The laws of intestate succession determine who receives the proceeds from a successful lawsuit.
Gotcha. We have got callers waiting. We've got Susan on the line with a question from Ardmore, Alabama. Hi, Susan. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
I've got a question about divorce.
Okay.
I have been living in Alabama. I moved here from Tennessee. I've been in Alabama since 2018.
Okay.
I've been separated since 2014.
Okay.
And I need to get a divorce. I'm just wondering, can I go to a lawyer here, or do I have to go back to Tennessee and get a lawyer there?
Okay. Paul, talk her through that.
So when you moved here to Alabama, did your spouse move with you, or is he still a resident of Tennessee?
Still a resident of Tennessee.
Okay, so Alabama would not have what they call sufficient minimum contacts to have personal jurisdiction over your husband. So you would need to file that in Tennessee, in the county in which he resides now that you are a resident of the state of Alabama.
And it seems like that's so unfair. They're so close together. It's not very far apart, but it's kind of intended to protect people from spouses moving way across the country, right?
Absolutely.
You don't want somebody moving to Colorado and they file for divorce in Colorado. You've never been to Colorado. That wouldn't be fair for you to have to go defend out there.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about signing your parental rights away. We always hear people talking about their ex is so bad they just wish they'd sign their rights away. Or sometimes a parent actually says they'd like to sign their rights away and have nothing more to do with this child. Talk to us a little bit about what that really is.
That's some hardcore stuff.
That is tough.
So,
we hear this all day, every day.
And then adoption.
Yeah.
So
by the new parent.
There are juvenile dependency cases in which you can terminate a parent's rights, but unless the parents are in agreement with that, it's not going to get rid of child support. It's still going to make you have those kind of obligations. So typically you can't just sign your rights away. And, you know, I personally believe that every child needs both a mother and a father, and so the more, I like to see more co-parenting and co-custody arrangements as opposed to one parent having the majority of the time. But typically you can't just go to the court and say, I don't want my child anymore, I don't want to have to pay child support. There are special dependency cases that you can file, termination of parental rights, to do that, but that, like I said, typically that's not going to get rid of your child support.
Let me ask you this, Paul and Sharon. Let's say mother, father, they have a child, they divorce, father's paying child support, mother marries, let's call him husband number two. Husband number two wants to adopt that child. Does the adoption, first off, does father have to agree, one? And two, if he does agree, does that terminate his rights and responsibilities for visitation and child support?
So if the father consents to the adoption, that would make that new parent, the adopting parent, the new legal father. The only thing the original father would be able, the adopted child would be able to inherit from that if he passed away, but it would get rid of that child support obligation, custody. He would actually have no rights to his child at all once he consented to that adoption.
We've got John on the line with a question from Leeton. Hi, John. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Yes, ma'am. I've been separated from my wife, I guess, about maybe over 2 years.
Okay.
And when the stimulus checks come out, I didn't get one. And I think she got both of them since they paid taxes and stuff, our income tax. We filed under both our names and stuff, and I didn't get no stimulus check. I think she got both of them.
And you're thinking she got yours and hers. Maybe, do you have any kids together? She may have gotten some of that too.
We got 2 kids. They're all grown though.
Okay.
They're both grown.
Okay. Paul, you think it's probably pretty likely if he didn't get that money, she probably did.
It's likely. It would really depend on how you filed taxes the year prior, which I guess would have been 2019, because I think most of those stimulus checks went out based on however you filed taxes the 2019 tax year.
And we've also seen a lot of those the stimulus payments getting intercepted. So, John, if you had any old arrearages for child support, the DHR, the state, has the ability to come in and intercept tax refunds, and we also saw them intercepting some of these tax stimulus money. So that could be where it went to, just if you had that issue. Let's take a break. We'll be right back answering more of your questions about family law. Stay with us. If you didn't get your questions answered tonight, here's how to get in touch with Paul Seckel. He is with Gunnersville Law in Gunnersville. 256-571-1529 is the number, and also check out gunnersvillelaw.com. Here's how to get in touch with Will League with Timberlake & League. They are personal injury attorneys, so that's everything from car accidents to medical malpractice. 256-536-0770 or 800-804-2502. The website is law-injury.com. And if you like them on Facebook, you can learn more about the law that way.
And our own Sharon Doviet, Family Law, 539-7337, SharonFamilyLaw.com. You
want to remind everybody about your event that's coming up?
Hey, this Friday and Saturday, right before the Iron Bowl, we got USA England Friday, and then Mexico Argentina Saturday, downtown Huntsville. Come check us out. Watch party. We're on FIFA, and the World Cup's starting. It's exciting to many soccer fans, but if you're not familiar with soccer, come down. Check it out. Again, there's Purple Cup District, so maybe a little something for everybody, and
that'll be fun.
Maybe a family day. I don't know if those mix really, but
thanks
we'll
for all your questions tonight, Paul. Thanks for staying up with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
See you guys next week.